Welcome back. Here's a really important question. What if the person you think you are is the very thing preventing you from becoming who you're meant to be? Think about that for a second. Not your circumstances, not your past, not your failures, not other people, but your identity. You know, the image in your head that says this is who I am, or that inner dialogue that says I am this. Because the moment something threatens this image, your inner critic, your ego, is going to drown you with fear, like deep fear. Not because you're dying, but because the ego believes it is. Yeah, because the ego's job is to protect that image. It's not designed to move you forward. The ego would rather suffer in familiarity than transform into uncertainty. And most people never realize this. They think they're afraid of failure. No, probably not. They're probably actually afraid of becoming someone unfamiliar. Because the mind clings to identity like survival itself. Even painful identities. I'm the anxious one. I'm the injured athlete. I'm the strong one. I'm the victim. I'm the people pleaser. I'm the failure. I'm the one who never finishes things. And eventually, you stop experiencing those things and you start becoming them. But hear this clearly today. You're not a fixed person. You are a process. And a true transformation requires the death of certainty. You know what's exhausting? Trying to grow while secretly protecting the old version of yourself. You say you want change, but you start defending your limitations. You say you want freedom, but your identity is built for survival. You say I want more, but internally you also say, don't change too much, because people may reject you. And remember that internally isn't you, that's your ego. It's an aspect of you, but it's not fully you. It says, don't dream too big because failure hurts. Or don't become too powerful because then there's no excuses anymore. You know, there was a time in my life where I was holding on to something so incredibly close and hard. And I knew it was holding me back in life, but I just couldn't let it go. And so I took on this practice. And my inner advocate was just saying over and over in my head, I surrender, I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. Because I knew this was something I had to let go. And as I was going through I surrender, fear came up. And the fear was, you're always going to be alone. You will have no one. You're going to be all by yourself. And day after day, you know, first day, second day, third day, for 72 hours, my mantra inside was, I surrender. And at the time, I was doing like service in a yoga studio. So I'm alone in the yoga studio after and I'm cleaning the studio, and I'm in my head, I'm in my mantra, I'm saying, I surrender, and I surrender. And it was almost like a mythical battle. I felt like I was going to battle with my biggest dragon. And I could feel it right there in front of me. So I pulled out my sword and I was ready to attack it and fight. But in the last moment, I realized resistance causes persistence. It's not a battle you can win. This is where you surrender. So I dropped my sword, went down to my knees. As the inner dialogue was saying, you're going to be all alone. You're going to have no one. Everybody will leave you. And I bore my throat to the dragon. I said, take my life, take everything I have, but this ends today. And then silence, and it was gone. I had a moment of like pure, like internal silence. And whatever it was disappeared so much that day that I don't know what it was anymore. Nope. Identity is emotional. It's not logical. The ego creates an image of who we are and then spends its entire life defending it, even when it hurts you. Actually, especially when it hurts you, because it's trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. The mind protects identity more aggressively than happiness. And that's why people repeat patterns, same relationship, same fear, same excuses, same emotional reactions, same self-sabotage. Because the familiar self feels safer than the unknown self. And some of you listening right now, you're standing at the edge of transformation, but fear keeps pulling you back. And it's not because you're weak. Because part of you believes, if I change, who will I be? That fear is real, but it's always a door. It's also a doorway. I truly believe that anything you believe for a fact about yourself in your life limits you to that fact. So you must find a way to not know. So I want to challenge you deeply today. This is a deep challenge. Anything you know for certain about yourself can become a limitation. Think about that. Anything you know about yourself for certain can become a limitation. And I say it all is a limitation. Anything rigid, anything absolute, anything you cling to is permanent. Like, I'm not confident, I'm bad at relationships, I'm not disciplined. I've always been this way. Like, who's saying that? You know who it is? It's the past. It's conditioning. It's your pain. But listen carefully. The moment you define yourself permanently, you stop evolving. Anything you know for a fact about yourself limits you to that fact. Identity can become a cage built from repeated thoughts. Ego loves certainty. Doesn't care if it's painful or not. It loves certainty because certainty feels safe. But growth, it really requires flexibility. Growth requires, I don't fully know who I am yet. And that's freedom. That's real freedom. You know, years ago when I was introduced to this idea of anything you know for a fact about yourself and your life limits you to that fact. And I thought, well, yeah, but like, how in the world am I going to go through life not knowing who I am? Because if anything I know limits. And I truly believe it doesn't matter how good I'm the best. Like, you're still limiting yourself because you're the best here, but are you the best in the world? And so on and so forth. Even even the greatest sounding things can be limits. And I was like, how can I overcome this? Because I do want to be the person I am. I do want to care about people. I do want to help people. I do want to make a difference. And what I realized was there was a way to not know. And what I created is strong suspicions. And how that works for me is like I have a strong suspicion that I really care about people and I really want to make a difference in this world. But I don't know how deep that goes or how much of an impact I can have in life. I'm just going to try. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody once about this. And they're like, yeah, but Shakespeare says know thyself. And I knew this person was like influenced by finances, by money, right? And I said to him, if you knew you were not a millionaire or a billionaire or could never be a millionaire or a billionaire, and the opportunity came, do you think you'd see it if you didn't believe it was possible? You'd think it was a scam or something. But the truth is, if you didn't know yourself to be a millionaire and not to be a millionaire or a billionaire, there's a chance, right? Another one actually happened quite recently. I was running my first marathon, and it wasn't a really good build the last month, and I had a bunch of things go on, and it was going to be hot. And on the day, I don't know if I can do this, was the conversation. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And standing on the line, we're getting ready to go. I realized the truth is anything you know about yourself, your life, everything limits you to that fact. So the truth is, if I don't know I can do this, I also don't know I can't. I'm just going to try. Some people are imprisoned by old versions of themselves. These are versions they should have outgrown years ago. Still living from a 12-year-old, still reacting from the rejection of a 16-year-old, still proving something to someone who may no longer exist in their life, or maybe they passed. But hear me clearly. You are allowed to evolve beyond the version of yourself that pain created. You really are. You're allowed to outgrow survival mode, and you're allowed to become unfamiliar with yourself. And yes, that will feel uncomfortable because transformation feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Yeah, transformation feels like loss before it'll ever feel like freedom. See, the truth is, the lesson repeats until it's learned. Have you ever noticed life keeps on bringing the same lesson in different forms over and over again? Different faces, different jobs, different relationship, same emotional experience. And that's not punishment. That's pattern recognition. Life is patient. The lesson will repeat until the identity changes. What you refuse to learn emotionally, life will continue teaching you experimentally. Maybe your lesson is boundaries. Maybe your lesson is self-worth. Maybe your lesson is vulnerability. Maybe your lesson is trusting yourself. Maybe your lesson is letting go. And sometimes we get frustrated because we feel stuck. But what if being held back for that moment is part of the lesson? What if the delay is developing something inside you? Patience, humility, awareness, strength, discernment. A seed underground looks buried before it transforms. Some of you think that life is punishing you, but maybe life is actually preparing you. And the preparation, no, it doesn't feel glamorous. It feels frustrating, confusing, slow, painful. But transformation is not a performance, it's a process. So let's talk about a tool you could try to use. Start off with notice identity statements. Pay attention to the conversation in your head. I am always, I never. That's just who I am. See, those phrases really matter. There's also, if you say I am in your head or if you say you are in your head, that makes a big difference as well. Because language reinforces identity. Start replacing certainty with possibility. Instead of I'm not confident, you could say I'm learning confidence. Instead of I'm broken, you could say I'm healing. You see, the internal critic, the ego, is the I am not confident voice. Your inner advocate, your purposeful, deliberate conversation would be I am learning confidence. Your identity follows your language more than you realize. Step 2, stop worshiping familiar fear. The ego creates familiarity with safety, or confuses familiarity with safety. That's why people say, so they stay in toxic relationships, in limiting beliefs, in emotional cycles, in self-sabotage, because uncertainty feels dangerous. But certainty feels safe, even if it's a safe pain. But your next level exists inside of uncertainty. Step 3, ask the hard question. Who would I be without this story? Without excuse, without fear, without this role? And that question, that's terrifying to the inner critic, to the ego, because the ego survives through labels. But your soul grows through expansion. Step 4, allow the old self to die. Transformation is not adding more yourself. It's shedding what no longer aligns. Old beliefs, old fears, old identities, old emotional addictions. And yes, grieving is a part of the old self. The old self. It's part of growth. You can grieve the old self. There's a quote I love. Maybe the point of life isn't necessarily to become something, but to unbecome everything you're not, so you can finally be who you're meant to be. You got to trust. Step 5, trust the timing of the universe, of life, divine, whatever you believe in. Some transformations cannot be forced. A flower does not bloom because you scream at it. Some lessons require time. Some awareness arrives only through experience. And maybe you're frustrated because you think you're behind. But hear me carefully. You're not late. You're actually right on time, and you're actually becoming. So I need to speak to the version of yourself that feels stuck right now. The version wondering, why am I not changing faster? Why do I keep repeating this? Why does this growth feel so hard? Because maybe you're in the middle of an identity death. The old self is shedding away. And identity death feels terrifying because you will not know who you are for a moment. Because the old identity is collapsing and the new self is not quite formed yet. And the space in between, that's where people quit. That's where people run backwards to comfort. That's where people abandon transformation and return to familiar suffering, but not you, not this time. The discomfort you feel may not be failure. It may be evolution. Caterpillars dissolve before they transform. Think about that. There's a stage where the old form literally breaks apart. Chaos before emerge. And maybe your life feels chaotic right now because the old identity cannot come where you are going. Some of you are mourning versions of yourself that were never meant to stay. And that is real grief. It's real. But transformation demands surrender. I cannot become new while worshiping old. So take a breath. and ask yourself, honestly, what identity am I defending? What labels have I outgrown? What lesson keeps repeating in my life? And what if, instead of fighting the process, I trusted it? Maybe being held back is not failure. Maybe it's formation. Maybe life is not rejecting you, but it's reshaping you. So if you remember one thing from today's talk, remember this: you're not trapped by your past. You're trapped by the identity you build around your past. And identities can change. That means you can change. Your life can change. Your future can change. Your relationships can change. Your confidence can change. But transformation asks for something difficult: the willingness to let go of old self. Every new chapter in your life will require a different version of you that has never, ever existed before. So stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Because the lesson will repeat until it's learned. And when the lesson is finally learned, the transformation arrives naturally, not forced, not faked, not performative, but real. And maybe, just maybe, the person you're becoming is far greater than the person you've been trying to protect. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to grow. Keep on letting go. And remember, your inner advocate is not asking you to stay the same. It's asking you to become.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.